Hi everyone, and welcome back to my kitchen for today's delicious savory recipe. I'm sharing with you guys my all-time favorite beef stew recipe. This stew is packed with so much incredible flavor. You guys are going to love it. We have huge chunks of slow braised beef, we have potatoes and mushrooms and carrots and so much going on with this stew. It's really delicious and it's perfect for these colder fall and winter nights when you're craving for a warming dish. Let me show you how I make this recipe. And this beef stew recipe is so delicious. Whenever I make it at home, I like to make a big batch of it because my husband absolutely loves it and it's gone in no time. So I'm going to get started with the beef first. I have 2 pounds of beef tri-tip. You can use tri-tip or roast. Just cube it into larger chunks like 1.5 inches. And we're gonna preheat this large frying pan over medium-high heat. Add a little bit of oil. You want the pan to be really nice and hot. And into my preheated pan, I'm going to add my beef. And season this beef generously with salt. And you'll want to brown this meat for about 7 to 10 minutes until it's well browned and seared all over. And this beef is looking good, just about done. My beef is all done, so now I'm going to transfer it into my soup pot. So just dump it all into a large pot. And then before I add my next ingredients, I'm going to deglaze the pan with some water. And I like to deglaze the pan at this point because there's lots of those caramelized bits of beef in there, and I don't want to miss out on that flavor. So usually you just add about half a cup of water, deglaze that, and then add that into the pan. I'm going to add some more oil into this pan, and now I'm going to add my mirepoix. So for this, I'm going to have some carrots, onions, and celery. So 3 medium carrots diced, 1 large diced onion, and 3 medium celery sticks. And I'm going to saute this for about 4 to 6 minutes. I want the onions and the carrots to be caramelized. And my onions are starting to soften and become translucent. At this point, I'm going to add in my garlic. So I have 4 minced garlic cloves. Add those in and mix them in, and I'm going to cook for about 1 more minute. And once my mirepoix is done, I'm going to add it to the stew pot. And now it's time for the mushrooms. So into the same pan, I'm going to add in a couple tablespoons of butter. I love to cook mushrooms on butter. They just taste so good. Just gonna let this butter melt in the pan. And then I'll add in my mushrooms. So I have about 10 mushrooms that I've thinly sliced. And you'll wanna brown the mushrooms for about 4 to 5 minutes. And once they're brown, I'm going to season them with a little bit of salt. And I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of flour. And this flour is just going to help thicken the stew, but it needs to be cooked first. So I'm gonna toss it with the mushrooms and cook it for about 1 minute. And once these mushrooms are all done, I'm going to transfer them into the pot. All right, so I have everything browned and sauteed and in one pot, and now it's time to add the rest of our ingredients. So I have 1 cup of red wine, and this is gonna add so much great flavor. Now, if you don't like to cook with wine, you could just replace it with more beef broth, but I do think this adds an incredible amount of flavor. So I highly recommend adding it. We're gonna add in 1 cup of tomato sauce, and a few tablespoons of Worcestershire. It's gonna add a little bit of kick, a little bit of spiciness. Next up, we have 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, half a tablespoon of sugar, and 2.5 teaspoons of Italian herbs. I'm gonna include my little mix recipe up on my blog. Season this generously with salt, about 1.5 tablespoons, and some cracked black pepper. Pour in 4 cups of beef broth. And give all of this a stir until it's well combined. And this beef stew is ready to simmer away, so I'm going to close it with my lid, and I'm going to bring this soup up to boil over high heat. Once it starts to boil, turn that heat down to low and let the soup simmer away for about 1 hour, 1.5 hours. The longer you let it simmer away, the softer and more tender the meat is going to be, and then we'll come back later to add the potatoes. All right, it's been a little bit over 1 hour that I've been cooking away my stew, and it has filled my whole house with the most incredible aroma. So we have a couple more ingredients to add. I'm going to add in about 2 cups of baby potatoes. I like to use baby potatoes because they're sweeter and they taste really good in the stew, so just add them right in. And I'm also going to add in 1 cup of frozen sweet peas. Now, if you're using fresh peas, you want to cut down this cooking time by 10 minutes. So I'm going to add all this in, and I'm going to cook the stew for another 20 minutes until the potatoes are fork tender. And this soup is all done. Look how gorgeous that looks, so delicious. I'm just gonna finish this off with a little bit of freshly chopped parsley, and this soup is ready to be enjoyed. Check that out. Isn't that the most incredible beef stew ever? I love how chunky it is. It's gonna be so good. And that's it, guys, for my favorite beef stew recipe. This soup has filled my house with the most incredible aroma, and I can't wait to dig in and enjoy, although this is still really hot, piping hot. So make sure you let it cool down for a little bit before you dig in to enjoy. So much flavor going on in this soup here. So delicious. The actual stew broth is so good. It has that flavor from the beef broth and the red wine and the tomato sauce, and you have the chunks of that tender, fall apart beef, the potatoes. You just cannot ask for a more delicious, warming beef stew recipe. If you guys are looking for a delicious dinner recipe, this is the one. Head on down into the video description box. I've left a link there that'll take you over to my blog so you can print this recipe off and share it with all your family and friends. I hope you guys enjoy this recipe as much as I do, and I'll see you next time.